All right, now it's time for our bonus lesson. For those of you that have been able to persevere and do all 6 lessons, I hope that they were valuable for you. Of course, I hope this allows you to travel the world, start going global, be international, have fun doing it, understand what you're looking at, what might trigger your anxiety, what's going to help you reduce your anxiety, so on and so forth. Now, the bonus lesson is going to focus on how to make and or save money while you travel. This can obviously be beneficial in many ways, and I think and hope you find it quite informative and at least can find 2 things that you can take away from this that'll help you make or save money on your upcoming journeys. Of course, money is a big factor, and it's one of the main reasons why people don't travel, and that's people with and without travel anxiety. I know that you know the ability to afford it, as well as getting time off from work, are the 2 biggest challenges most people have. And with some insight and a little bit of digging, I think we'll see that there are many ways to make or save money while traveling, which makes it a little easier to pull the trigger, so to speak, and buy those plane tickets or even just take that vacation. I know for a lot of families out there, it's hard to make ends meet, and if you can find a way to travel and make or save a significant amount of money, it'll make it that much easier. So we're going to go through a handful of different techniques and methods here. Free airline tickets, obviously that's a big deal. What's called mystery shopping assignments, it's gotten quite popular recently. How to utilize free guidebooks and then do photo gigs and write articles for different potential blog sites or companies. Importing obviously has always been a big industry. There's ways still to make money. I have friends that do it. How to get free hotels and discounted rooms. We talked about that a little bit with like hotels.com, 10 rooms plus, or 10 rooms gets you a free one. But there are other ways, driveaways. We'll go into what those are. Always, there's teaching jobs abroad, so this might be right up your alley. Ways to get free tours, cruises, short term vacation jobs, leveraging timeshares and vacation clubs and how these can benefit you in the long term. And then, of course, medical vacations, which is not new by any means, but it is largely is growing definitely, and something you might want to consider for certain types of medical procedures. So let's get to it. No doubt, your flight is one of your most expensive um, costs with your trip. That and your hotel stay. So there aren't really magical ways to get free airlines, but there are some methods that can work for you. And I think the number one and the most obvious method is free airline miles. And you don't have to book a ton of flights to get free miles. There are a number of credit cards out there that'll give you a lot of bonus points. I mean, for example, right now I'm looking at a Southwest credit card through Chase, and if I get the card and spend $2,000 within the first 3 months, I get 60,000 bonus points. Now I did the math. 60,000 bonus points with Southwest is essentially 2 round trip tickets from the West Coast to Hawaii and back. So we're looking at doing that. And one method we're going to do is that. So here's an example, not hypothetical, it's real. Me and my wife got $6,000 back in our taxes, and we're using that for a trip to New Zealand. Now it's money in our account. That's money that we can use to travel. Um, the flights to New Zealand, the flights to LAX to New Zealand, and then we're gonna fly to the South Island, to Christchurch and back. We're spending $2,200 with these flights. This Southwest card, if you spend $2,000 or more in the first 3 months, you get 60,000 flight points. So we book all of our flights in New Zealand with our Southwest card. The flights are paid for. We pay off the credit card immediately because it's tax return money. We have 60,000 free bonus points. That's 2 round trip tickets to almost anywhere in the U.S. on Southwest. Now we're spending $2,200, $2,400 on hotels for 15 days because our average was $150 a night was our average, and for 15 days, so that's $2,200 and change essentially. We get a second credit card, a new credit card, and we put all of that money onto that one. We haven't found it yet. There's a bunch of different cards, but essentially, if you have the money to book one international trip with you and your spouse, and your credit's decent, and you don't have a lot of debt, You can easily leverage credit card companies' special gifts and offerings to ensure that you get free trips. So, like I said, we're spending $6,000 on a 2 week trip to New Zealand. Not lavish by any means, but very comfortable. Very nice trip. We're driving around a lot. We're flying to both islands. And because of that, we're basically getting an entire trip for free in so many ways. You know, we're getting $1,500, $2,000, $1,500 in value for credit card points. So that's basically, I mean, we're getting like 4 free flights if we do it right, depending on our second credit card. So you can easily leverage your credit card offerings. You know, we shoot for one a year. We each get one new card a year, and then we also eliminate old cards. Don't eliminate your very first credit card. That, you know, the length of your credit is very important. The longer you have credit for, the better it looks. So if you're going to eliminate any credit cards, do not eliminate your first credit card. When you do eliminate credit cards, there's a good chance you can transfer that balance to another card. So, for example, say you have a Chase card and you have $10,000 credit limit on there, and you want to get a new Chase card. Let's just say the Southwest Rapid Reward card, and you're like, I want to close down this old Chase card, open up this new Chase card. You can ask them, will you transfer some of my credit limit to my new card? And most of the time they'll do it. They won't do 100%, but they'll do 80% or so. So you can also do that. So always pay your credit cards off. You know, be responsible. Get your credit score up above 700 comfortably before you start doing this. Because when you get a new credit card and you close credit cards, they can ding you a few points. But if you stay current on your payments, then you don't have to be concerned about your credit because it'll stay relatively the same, and you can get all these free flights. So like I said, with one $4,000 or $5,000 trip done right with the right credit cards, you can get 3 or 4 round trip flights almost anywhere. So that's the first way to leverage credit cards. Keep in mind that you don't have to use, you can use your credit cards for other things. I mean, people spend a lot of money all the time. Clothes, food, housing, right? Like, you know, you can't pay your mortgage with a credit card. Obviously, you can't pay off a loan with a loan, essentially. But there's countless other expenses. So you don't have to just say, oh, I'm gonna book a trip and I have $5,000. You can say, I'm gonna use my everyday expenses, and go out there and search for some credit cards, because there are some really good ones. I know the Discover It is a really good card. The Chase Sapphire Reserve card. The Southwest Rapid Reward, 60,000 bonus points, is pretty intense. There's a lot of different credit cards you can use. There's a Citi Double Cash card, which is worth looking into. So there are websites you can go look at that'll definitely help you. And you know, you at least want to get a dollar for dollar reward system. So you spend $100 on groceries, you get 100 points. Keep that in mind. Some, you know, like the Southwest Rapid Reward card, that's a 2-for-1. So any Southwest flight that we purchase, we spend $500 on Southwest flights, we get 1,000 points. So look at the details, read the details. There's a number of different types of blogs you can look at, and you know, I'll post them. But like frugaltravelguy.com, thepointsguy.com, frequentflyer.com. I'll list these in a separate document so you have it. But there's a number of different ways to leverage your credit. So really, you know, if you can afford it, get your credit down to almost nothing and book all your trips and buy everything with credit cards, and just do some research. And if you stay on top of it, you can do a great job with your credit cards. So pay a lot of attention to that. And I mentioned earlier, I think in like the introduction or the very first lesson here, I used to get really bad anxiety when I would miss my flights. Like that was a terrible thing. Like I still book my flights to have the least amount of layovers possible, because that just increases my chances of missing a flight. But you know, once you get used to traveling, you can actually plan your layovers in a way that might get you bumped on purpose. So, you know, most of the time, Sunday afternoons, Sunday evenings, and Monday mornings are the best to get bumped. And there's a strategy to it. So when you get to the airline, you get to your gate, you go straight to the counter as soon as there's a stewardess or an assistant there, and tell them that you would like to get bumped. There's a list that they actually have, and you ask, is this flight full? And most of the time the flight is full, because airlines actually, they oversell their flights. It's a method they use. It works. I think they oversell every flight by like 6% because people cancel and whatnot. So they want to ensure their flights are full, but sometimes they're over full. And like I said, certain times, holiday weekends, especially Sunday evenings when people want to get home to start their work week Monday morning, you can strategically get bumped. So when you get there, go to the gate, go to the counter, and say, "Hey, my name's so and so. I'm on this flight. Is it full?" Ask them if it's full. If it is full, say, "Great. I would like to put my name on the bump list in case you need to bump some people on the flight." And when they do this, when they bump you from a flight, they give you a free credit voucher. And it can be cheap sometimes, $50, $100, but usually it's like a free flight essentially. It's like a $300 credit limit or credit value. And you can really take advantage of this. So when you start planning your trips, like for me, I was terrified of getting stranded essentially in Arizona on my overnight layover because I missed my flight. But it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal at all. And you know, you can show up at the airport Sunday afternoon and say, "Yeah, put me on the bump list." And if they bump you, they'll give you a free flight. Chances are it's the last flight of the day. Um, you might have to stay overnight. They'll pay for your hotel room. They'll pay for your taxi cab, and then show up Monday morning. It's a busy Monday morning. You have nowhere to go because you're strategically doing this. Give yourself ample time. Monday morning, say, "Hey, I would like to get bumped if the plane's full." Ask them if it's full. You can get bumped Monday morning too. So if you do it right and you luck out, you can get bumped Sunday night, get a free hotel room, get bumped Monday morning, and then you'll be on the next flight out. So you can ask them, when are the next flights? Dig a little bit, get some details. Be a nice person. It goes a long way. If you're smiling and you're happy and you're being really considerate, it's not going to be a big deal. They'll put you on the bump list and you might get bumped. So what I do now is I try to get bumped. I plan on it. I used to not book busy weekends because I was sick of it. I was sick of dealing with things. But now we'll just leave our schedule a little more open and we'll try to get bumped. And I had a friend, she got bumped 6 times over spring break in Fort Lauderdale and made $3,000 in vouchers. This can be a really good strategy. So, always when you ask the counter assistant, ask them, are there flights behind this? So if you're staying overnight. Do a little bit of digging and just make sure that you're available. You're early to the airport. You're the first person at the gate. And then you're asking them. And you can get free flights this way as well. And it might be a bit of an inconvenience. This is more of a pro level type maneuver because you have to allow yourself some flexibility here. And if you have travel anxiety and you're going through this and this is already a big deal for you, you probably don't want to do this initially. But once you get used to it, you start getting free flights. Like imagine getting a free, the Southwest reward card, 60,000 free bonus points, and then flying and getting bumped on those free flights. You can really rack up free flights if you're strategic about it. So I'll introduce a lot of details attached to this slide presentation because there's a lot of details that go behind this, but these are some 2 simple ways to get free flights and they're definitely worth looking into. All right, mystery shopping. Mystery shopping is getting quite popular actually. Some people make it a full-time job. You can make up to $40,000, $50,000 a year if you're good at it and you stick with it, which that's very acceptable for many people. So what is it? And essentially, in a nutshell, get paid to shop and evaluate the service, cleanliness, and quality at hotels, restaurants, banks, essentially different corporations, businesses, all over the world, really. And you can be compensated in free meals, flights, hotels, all kinds of stuff. If you get good at it, they might pay for your whole trip, really. To start, you might not make anything. Your first mystery shopping assignment might be a local McDonald's around the corner and they want you to try a Big Mac and give them your feedback. So like most everything in life, you don't just sign up and get free stuff or get these jobs. You have to work for it. You have to build up your reputation. The first thing you have to do is apply. You have to fill out an application, and I'll attach a list and name a couple of the top mystery shopping companies that are out there. But sign up with at least 5, 6, mystery shopping companies in the beginning. When you do all your applications and you're all filled out, and once they contact you and approve or verify that you have successfully submitted your application, they're going to give you the basics that you need to know. And then when and if they do give you an assignment, which they probably will eventually if you fit the criteria, always take your very first assignment no matter what it is. Because until you get an assignment, you don't have a shopper ID. So when you first take your first assignment, you get your shopper ID, and then that'll give you the name of the person who's essentially your account manager. And until you do that, you're not really anybody in this mystery shopping company. So it's important that as soon as you get the opportunity to do a mystery shopping assignment, take it. And that gets you in, right? And then from there, you'll have to build a good track record and make sure that you're doing your job accurately. You're making sure that you're providing the solutions and the information that they need, the research, the analysis. And once you start getting fairly well at this and you have a few assignments under your belt, before your next vacation or business trip, contact your associate, your mystery shopping contact, and you might be going to a place where they have assignments for you, and you can literally get paid to shop and provide feedback while you're on your vacation. So it's definitely something worth looking into, because you can leverage your pre-existing trips and make money shopping. I mean, we always shop when we travel. What harm would it do to throw in one or two extra businesses and just provide some feedback for people, make a few $100, and that just makes the trip that much more affordable. So I'll definitely provide a list of mystery shopping companies. There are some here: Bear International, BARE, BizShopTalk.com, and MarketForce.com. Those are some of the top ones. But I will provide a more detailed list with some information. And if you're a shopaholic, especially if you're suffering from anxiety and shopping is one of your therapeutic activities, this could be right up your alley, because you can kind of get completely immersed in the world of shopping and make it a fun job. People do it. People do it for a living. People do it for a substantial amount of income, and it's very needed. So maybe this is something that works for you. Could make you some money while you're on your vacation. So there are other ways to find valuable information. You can leverage guidebooks, which are fairly common, and you can do photo gigs and writing gigs as well. So for the guidebooks, there are a number of ways to get these for free. You can find them in hotel lobbies and convenience store entrances, essentially, and there's a lot of good information in there. And you get lots of free destination travel information, and there's a lot of different websites. So you can go to Moon Handbooks, moon.com, lonelyplanet.com, letsgo.com, frommers.com, and then also you can get a free guidebook if you purchase the European Train Pass from Rick Steves. He is an author of a book called Europe Through the Back Door, and if you purchase his book, you get a free guidebook and a video, and that can help you just get some good information and different types of tips and tricks and tactics to leverage while you're on your method, on your travel. And then as you go through these guidebooks, you're getting information about traveling already. You're getting good hints and tips and whatnot about where you're at, what you're doing, potential coupons. On your next vacation, make a list. Go through the guidebooks, read them, and then make a 2 to 3 page list for improvements for the next edition, because they want to make sure they have up-to-date pricing and up-to-date information, of course, right? They want to know when new restaurants open up, new restaurants close down. A lot can change in a few years, so they don't update these guidebooks incredibly often. So if you're a recurring traveler or you have a location that you like to go do a lot, you can make a lot of money. Actually, you can make money, a couple $1,000s as a ghostwriter for guidebooks. So promote your favorite guidebooks, figure out what it is you like to do, and then while you're on your vacations, do research. You're basically kind of like a scout in the field, and it can be quite fun because you're kind of doing like an investigative journalist type thing. You're seeing if the information is still legitimate, if everything's still accurate. And then you're making references and you're contacting these guidebooks and letting them know that you might want to be able to assist them when they make their next issue because they have some faulty or outdated information. So there are a couple ways to make money as a photographer or as a writer, essentially. I love taking photos. I'm a photographer. I take my camera almost, pretty much everywhere with me now. I didn't take it to Thailand, but I'll be taking it to New Zealand for sure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to different hotels that I'm staying at, different restaurants that we're staying at, travel companies in and around the U.S. that might be on my radar, and ask them, hey, I'm going to New Zealand. These are the cities I'm going to. This is our itinerary. This is what we're going to be doing. Do you need anybody to provide any content, any photos while I'm in that area? And really, like, it's great if I can get any kind of job. Maybe I can at least get some awesome photos that I can sell to, Shutterstock.com or something like that. Companies that have copyright ownership to, millions of photos, literally. You can always sell it to them. But really, one of the best things about it is to get a letter of interest from one company, from one hotel chain, from one online travel company, and take it with you on your trip. And that way, you can show the hotels and the restaurants that you're actually working and you're a travel writer, a travel photographer, and many times this will get you a discounted or even free hotel room. The hotels leave certain rooms open. They usually aren't always full. Unlike airplanes, they overbook. Hotels, they generally underbook, leave a few rooms open. And when you're in the travel industry and you can provide them with positive press or just you can be of value for them, a lot of times they'll go out of their way to help you out. So when you plan your trip, right, whether it's your first trip with anxiety, maybe you want to write an article and take photos about being a traveler with anxiety, and this is your first trip and you're going to document it. Maybe you can contact a local organization that deals with mental illness, anxiety, and depression, and you can write about your depression and your anxiety, and if everything goes well and you follow my recommendations and your trip goes smoothly, nothing out of the ordinary happens, you can actually get in good, and they might help you promote yourself, and you might be able to help them and address a certain serious issue, mental health, anxiety, depression, and then you can go show people that you're writing for this local mental health institute, and it can take you places. Really, you can get killer discounts, no doubt, and maybe even some free stuff. So you can get paid to blog. That's always a good one. You can get paid to copyright and proofread. There's a website called Fiverr.com. You can make some serious money. There are bloggers who pull in more than $100,000 a year, but that's the exception. That's ProBlogger.net. There's a lot of ways. If you're good at writing, if you're good at photography, if you're good at creating a concise angle, getting a clear vision of what you want to do, where you want to go, contact companies that are on your radar and tell them what you're up to, and find a way to kind of be an intermediary and help each other out. And you can get a lot of free benefits from things like this. And like I said, in this case, this is a course on travel anxiety, essentially. Document it. Like what I want to do here is my whole purpose of this is to empower other people so they can defeat their anxiety. Well, if you can document your first travels, while you're in it, I didn't do this in 2008. I just took a handful of photos. But if you can be someone that can help someone else and inspire someone else and make a few bucks for providing someone's content for their website and get discounted hotel rooms because you're in the travel industry, it's a win-win-win. So look into it. I'll have some more information on this. It's a lot of data. This whole like I said, you've seen the tools I've included. There's going to be a lot more here, so just click on the links below or the documents below and you'll have more information on this one, but worth looking into. All right, importing. This is a fun one. I don't import. I've wanted to many times. I've found awesome gifts around the world, from Italian marble to melted glass vases in Bali to I don't even know what in Thailand. I got a friend. She has an importing company down in Peru. She has essentially a small village of Peruvian women that live high up in the Andes. She makes, they make gloves, beanies, knits, alpaca, llama, and she imports it all. And she's doing pretty good. And it's not an easy task. She does this as a business, um, but it's pretty amazing. She travels to Peru 3 or 4 times a year and has created an actual village of people that make goods for her, and she imports them in the U.S. and sells them at a really high price. So importing is definitely a big deal. Most countries, compared to the U.S. and many European countries, have a much lower cost of living than the U.S. Therefore, goods can be much, much cheaper. And it's also cool getting something that was made somewhere else. So many of the goods we get in the United States, they're imported already, mostly from China. Why not import something from a different country? Import something unique. I went to Costa Rica and I bought a bunch of what I thought were Costa Rican gifts, essentially. And I didn't realize it until after I bought them, but I picked them up, and underneath it was all made in China stickers. So even in a place like Costa Rica, on a beach on the coast, you can get stuff from other countries. So this is a great way to find really cool and unique gifts. Furniture is a big one, a little tougher. You have to do it in like larger containers, big shipments, but you can definitely do it. Like big items like furniture, if you can find the good connection, you would definitely want to like have a consignment deal with a furniture store locally where you are, and then bring them in. Have some items, or at least take some photos at first. What I do is I'll take photos of really cool things in different countries. I'll take contact information from these people, and then I'll get back to the States and I'll say, I'll go to a buddy who works at a furniture factory and say, hey, these are some goods that I can get at this price. Let's figure out how much it costs to import, and go from there, right? And sometimes it can be really worth it to do big goods. If you can do a freight container of a really good, high quality Balinese or Taiwan or Thai goods, can be awesome and very fun. You can also do smaller things as well, like I said, a lot of people import scarves and mittens and whatnot from places like Peru. You have in Tibet, you have really high quality similar items. So it can be very fun. You're kind of doing this whole international business type deal where you're looking for goods to buy and import. And at the very least, you can save some cash by buying gifts for your friends and family while you're overseas. The gifts can be a lot more authentic in other countries, as well as cheaper and a little more meaningful. I like buying gifts for people when I travel. So, importing obviously has its concerns. You'll have to sign a customs declaration form. If you're spending a lot of money, it's going to be problematic. If you have to ship things separately, you have to deal with import-export type forms, whether it's DHL or UPS, whoever you use. And so there are some legal issues, no doubt, but it's something worth doing and worth looking forward for. Maybe not start with this huge idea that you're going to make $1 million. Start for fun, and then start learning it, and then go from there. But like I said, I have a friend who essentially created she created the company, and all of her employees they live up in the Andes, and they make hand woven, hand spun items, sweaters and linens and whatnot, and she imports them all, and she's doing great. Really adventurous, really fun, pretty amazing. Look into it if it's something you might be considering. There's a lot of information out there on it, and I'll provide that also in some of the documents that are attached. Another way to get free hotels and discounted accommodations, like I mentioned a couple times before, I like Hotels.com because for every 10 rooms you book, you get one free. That definitely comes in handy. Discount coupon books, they can be many places again, hotel lobbies, convenience store entrances, things of that nature. There are some really great online tools, roomsaver.com, hotelcoupons.com, ehotelcoupons.com, travelsaverguides.com. All links I'll post that can really help you get discounts because the hotel industry is highly competitive and prices can fluctuate significantly, and they don't always publicize their coupons or their discounts. You can do pretty well with the search optimization with all the different types of hotels and Expedia and Orbitz and blah 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 blah. Like I said, even Bing, I'll search if I want to go to like Chiang Mai in Thailand. I'll look at hotels.com options first, and then I'll pull up like Bing Maps at Chiang Mai, and I'll click on the hotels tab, and it'll show me different prices. And there's a lot of hotels that aren't included in hotels.com and vice versa. I found some great rooms from Agoda, so it's worth looking around, but it's also worth looking at different websites that might have significantly cheaper deals that other people don't know about. Homestays and hospitality exchanges, they can be free. You can go the hostel route, like I said, it's very cheap. You can camp if you're in that kind of thing. When we travel, we like to keep it a little more comfortable because, having anxiety, dealing with anxiety, I'm not one that wants to travel halfway around the world and then sleep on a dirty mat. Like we tried the hostel thing in Thailand because it's a big hostel area, and the rooms weren't as clean. There were more mosquitoes in the rooms. They didn't change the bedding as frequently. The air conditioning units, while they did work, it seemed like they were moldy because we got sick from being in the room too much. So, you can couch surf on people. There's plenty of different ways, and it's worth looking into. There's so many different ways. As a matter of fact, I'll be including these again as a link or a document, but you can definitely do things like home swapping or home exchanges. Like I said, when the last few trips we did, we Airbnb'd our home, and we made good money. We made quite good money. So you can definitely look at that at housing swap type options and the Airbnb if you're fortunate enough to be able to rent your house out when you go somewhere. That can add the anxiety. Like I said, when we went to Italy, that really was intense because not only were we going to Italy, we were getting married, and we're also renting our house out for the first time to people we never met. So we had people living in our house for 12 days. 12 days while we were in Italy, and we made like $1,500 because of it. So we got paid while we were on vacation, but that's one option potentially if you own your home or condo. Dog sitting. We looked into dog sitting quite a bit. You can do pet sitting in different places. There's different websites. There's home sitting sites. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. So when it comes to where you're staying, it's hard to get free places, but not impossible by any means. Being a caretaker, like I said, you can do that, and you can get a free place for doing a simple few chores. Some people love their dogs and cats so much they'll pay you to stay at their house, or pay you to check on them. I've seen jobs where they'll basically just want you to check on their dog or cat 3 times a day. So like I said, I'll post some links, a lot of information, a lot of websites, a lot of stuff to think about, but definitely ways to be smart and save money on your accommodations. Driveaways, this is basically where you get paid to drive somebody else's vehicle across the country. It seems like it's a growing market for sure, people transporting different types of vehicles, and you can get paid to do it. And of course, you're driving, so it's not an international trip. I mean, it could be in country, in a different country, you never know. But at least in your home country, if you're working on your anxiety and you want to just find a way to get out and get paid and just go for a drive across the country, which is, it can be very, very peaceful. Could work for you. So, there are different types of independent contractors or drivers for, manufacturers of RVs, other vehicles like that, private individuals, snowbirds, people who live in the north, and then they'll fly south for winter and they want to have their car transported. Car rental companies, U-Haul companies, things like that. As a matter of fact, from my understanding, there's so many people moving out of California. It's like 3 times the price to get a U-Haul because they're all taking them from California and driving them out, and they got to get them back because that's what the demand is. So, for instance, my father, who is moving to Georgia from Southern California here in a month or two, he flew to Phoenix with his friend and rented two U-Hauls to drive him back to Southern California, to then drive him across to Atlanta because it was cheaper to do that than it was to just rent the darn things in Southern California. So when you're looking at essentially mass migrations like this, there's money to be made. So you can honestly, probably right now, if you contacted some of these companies, wherever you are in the U.S., if you're anywhere in the Midwest, the South, you could make a pretty good penny probably driving a U-Haul back to California. How cool would that be? You get paid to drive to California, and then maybe even get your return trip back. So you got to contact the drive-away company and do the application. Usually it's about $10-15. You have to have your qualifications, obviously, 23 years old or older, a valid driver's license, good driving record, good health, and you got to be able to drive for 8-9 hours a day. Really, I mean, average is 60 miles an hour because people generally stop every 2 or 3 hours, so it averages out to about 60-70 miles an hour depending on what you're driving and how fast you're driving and where you're driving. But 400 miles a day at 60 miles an hour is about 7 hours. So you gotta be able to drive for half a day, but it's not that big of a deal really. Most people can do it pretty easily. So keep it in mind. I'll list some links, some companies that you can contact for driveaways, but it could be a fun way to see, if anything in the U.S. And if not, when you get good at it, you get a reputation built, you can probably go to other countries and maybe drive for them. Like I said, I drove a lot in Italy. We could have easily did a leg where we went one way and picked up a car in one location, left it in another. Worth looking into for sure, especially if you're just wanting to drive and see your own country, see the U.S. could be great. Definitely the teaching a second language is a big deal. English is a very high demand language. It's currently the international language of business. Most of the computer coding is in English, so it's in high demand. And there are a lot of other countries where I think the parents are a little more savvy than the U.S., where they want their kids to have 2 or 3 different languages in their repertoire, essentially. So, China, Thailand, anywhere in Asia, South America, you can do pretty well. You can have your whole trip paid for potentially. You obviously have to be good at speaking the language you're teaching, of course. Degree would help, but not necessary. You'll probably need to get a certification. I don't think it's that challenging, honestly. Get a little experience. You have to be obviously comfortable with kids and teaching. And oddly enough, I think this is an interesting statistic, but most of the people I deal with when it comes to anxiety are women. And I mean, we're talking like in a lot of the anxiety groups that I work with, 80% women. And I don't think that women are more prone to have anxiety as men. I think men, it's much harder for men to admit it, and also men deal with it in other ways. And I think women are more emotional, they're more vocal a lot of the times, not always of course, but I think just as a relatively consistent gender trait. And also women tend to teach a lot more. We see a lot more women teachers, especially in grade school. So, taking those two statistics, essentially, the fact that more women speak up about anxiety issues and more women tend to teach, there's a good chance statistically that the person that's listening to my voice right now is a woman who may have some teaching experience. So this could be a really good solution to help, and the thing is, like, if you have travel anxiety and you want to go somewhere and you want to be adventurous and you want to go to Asia, which is a huge deal for many people, especially with people with anxiety, if you're teaching, it plugs you into a community. It gives you support network. It gives you purpose. It gives you good feeling. It gives you the ability to kind of have people with you. And by doing so, the teaching will keep you busy. It'll keep you mentally preoccupied. And you're working with these smiling little kids all the time, and you're learning a different language too. So it's just a way to really open up your world and help others out and then help yourself out. So keep it in mind. I'm not saying that men can't do this. Of course, I'm just saying statistically, women tend to teach middle school more, and I also deal with more women as a percentage of my clients, friends that have anxiety than men. It's open to everybody, but just something I want to mention that it could be a really good solution for you if you're a woman and you like kids and you're dealing with anxiety. I've seen this work for many people, and it could be really good for you. Okay, so this one right here, get a free tour or cruise. A little more in detail, a little more complex, but you can use a website called Specialty Travel to brainstorm ideas, destinations with friends. Look for group discounts, look for specially discounted prices. Um, you can actually find a lot of good deals just by asking people for discounts. I mean, if you're going with a bunch of friends, obviously group discounts can be great. You can negotiate that. The one thing about this is that you kind of have to do it while you're in the moment. And I like to book my trips far in advance. Like, I don't leave for New Zealand for 4 months and the whole trip is completely booked. Like, aside from a handful of attractions that we're going to wait, I mean, I'm talking flights, I'm talking hotels, I'm talking, the must-see ones. We're doing the Milford Sound Cruise, and that's a really, really, really popular attraction, so we booked it far out. But the sailing and the yada yada, we're not going to do quite yet. But if you want to be a little more spontaneous, or if you want to plan a group trip ahead of time, you can contact people and say, hey, I have a group of 8 friends, and we're going to go stay at wherever, Krabi, Thailand, and we want to negotiate a good group discount. So you can find out that you can do pretty darn well. One thing that people do, I know people that literally they just copy other people's tours, and then they'll do it themselves. Like they'll go like on TripAdvisor and be like, oh, well, what's the best tour to take in this area in Rome, whatever. And then they'll look at the cost, and then they'll kind of just piece their own together, and then they'll do it with their friends, or they'll even sell it to other people. They'll find a way to create their own trip brochure and just copy other people's stuff and use it as theirs. And if you're doing it with integrity, if you're not like copying anybody's like intellectual property, plagiarizing it, like a lot of this information that I'm telling you is known by other people. This is common knowledge stuff. This is free to the general public, essentially, and a lot of these tour trips are too. So if you want to be a little more creative, and you want to really destroy your anxiety, imagine going to a place like Rome with a handful of friends, and instead of doing someone else's tour, you do your own. Like, you create your own and take your friends on that. This is obviously pro level stuff. You don't do this obviously when you start getting past your anxiety. The key focus here is to get past your anxiety. And once you go, level up in terms of your travel abilities, then you can do more intense things like this. But a lot of things you can do. Cruise lines, and we'll get into this here soon. Short-term vacation jobs. Pick a cruise you want to go on. Go to the cruise line website and look at short-term work opportunities. It can be a really good idea. And the next slide is actually about short-term vacation jobs, and they're quite abundant actually. And one thing that people with anxiety have trouble with is being alone. I think being alone can really trigger someone's anxiety because you're stuck in your head, you're focusing on it. Getting out of that and being surrounded with people and communicating can be very therapeutic. So there's a number of jobs you can do. Short-term vacation jobs, if you feel like going on trips that are a little bit longer, a few months, maybe a season. Ski instructor, it's a big one. A chef, if you have culinary skills, this can be a great one. For the more adventurous, a dive instructor, bartender. Not age restrictive. There are places that could use a short-term bartender that could be in their 50s or 60s. People are working later and longer these days, so age is becoming less of a factor. There's jobs like maintenance jobs in many different places, resorts, tourism industry. Obviously, this is what we're talking about. A nanny, like I said before, a dog sitter. So there are countless short-term vacation jobs, and people make this a life. And you don't have to. Like I said, the focus of my course is to get you international, have your anxiety essentially disappear. So when you're taking vacations in 6 months, whatever, your anxiety's under control. And then as you step out and reach out, you can start doing more adventurous things like this, and then maybe take a 3-month trip and hold a short-term vacation job. Could be great. And meet good people, have a good time, Socialize. Socializing is huge for people with anxiety. It's one of the most important things to get out of your head and be with people. And a short-term vacation job can be a great way to get you to pay for the majority or make money while you're on your vacation and have a better time ultimately. So we're working our way down the list and we're getting close to the end. Timeshares and vacation clubs. So here's the argument here. You're gonna go on a vacation and stay somewhere for 10 days and spend on average $150 a night. That's $1,500 you're spending on a trip. If you do that 10 years in a row, that's $15,000 that you're spending on your timeshare. That's money that you throw away. You don't have any equity. It's just it's money you spent on that instant and it's gone. If you have some kind of long-term idea like this, or if you have a place that you love, and I say go new places. Some people are happy with Hawaii once a year, and if that's you, that's fine. This is all about increasing your life enjoyment. But the argument is buy a timeshare instead, and then that way you keep value. You might have to fork out more money up front, but in the long term you have some equity and you have a partial ownership of an asset. It can be a bigger, nicer place that you co-own. You can get way more amenities, more lavish. You have people that aren't just vacationers or tourists; they're, partial homeowners. The cons are that you are restricted to certain dates, and if you don't use it during your time that's available, you lose it. And you are sharing it with a number of other people, so you might own only 1/26th. That's what it usually is. You get a 2-week timeshare portion. But it can be better, if you get it on the right deal at the right time. It could be fantastic. And you know what? Maybe you can rent it out if you don't use it. Me and my wife are looking to buy a condo in Hawaii as a tool to leverage and trade, to house swap. Hey, we have a condo in Hawaii. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, right outside Honolulu. And it could be very valuable for you. So we're going to look at that, and we can leverage that to trade other people, and it could be very fun. So look at the timeshares. It could be very good for you. All right, finally, medical vacations. Not really a small deal, honestly. There are a number of different types of medical procedures you can have overseas that can be done at the same quality level as you would find in the United States at significantly lower prices. Of course, it's important that you pick qualified, good doctors, because I've heard of some serious horror stories with people getting notably dental work done in Mexico, and getting a crown, which is a $1,200 cost here essentially, and they got it for less than half price, but it was weak material. They broke, had to have their entire crown tooth pulled back out, root canal, new crown. So you got to do your research, and one way to understand and figure out who's worth going to is reach out to the expat companies, expat clubs in other countries. So say Thailand is a huge medical vacation destination for dental work because they have some incredibly good medical dentists essentially. And if you're not certain where to go, because Bangkok's a big, scary, crazy city sometimes, reach out to expat clubs in Bangkok, in Thailand, and say, hey, I'm so and so. I'm going to Thailand to get some dental work done, and I'd like some recommendations on who to go to. Obviously, if anyone gives you a recommendation, follow up with your own research. Nowadays, you can easily verify if someone's good or not. Generally, by doing their online rating, peer reviews, things like that. There's a way to kind of double check the recommendations in many instances. So do that. But dental work's a big one. I know in Mexico it's a big deal. Thailand it's a big deal. Other countries I think as well, maybe Vietnam. And I've heard of people going to like different countries in Europe for stem cell work. Stuff they won't even do here in the U.S. You can go to other countries and get procedures done that you can't legally get done here. And stem cells in Europe is a big one there. So this is obviously very, very dependent on your individual situation, what you need, if you do or don't have insurance, what your risk threshold is. Like for me, I've looked into getting dental work done like overseas or in Mexico many times, but because I have travel anxiety, this was just adding too much to my trip. Like maybe not now anymore, but after Italy, after going to Italy, getting married, driving around the country, and then renting our house out at the same time, handling that, maybe I can handle a medical vacation now. Like I said, I keep pushing myself. I keep growing myself and doing things that I wouldn't otherwise do, and a medical vacation might be a good opportunity. I've heard of people going to Europe for stem cell work for cancer that they have, or reconstructive surgery on knees and certain joints. So it's something worth looking into. Obviously, there's a million different elements you could have, and look into it. I've even heard of people going down to the Peruvian jungles and doing ayahuasca and having figuring out their spirit animals. I call that medical or not. I would call that medical, but there's a lot out there. A lot out there. So we're dealing with anxiety here. That's the key focus of this course. So reduce it, but maybe you can find something that works for you. And as you become a more avid traveler, you'll not even flinch at saving a few $1,000s on a tooth implant in Thailand than doing it here in country, right? That's a free trip. $4,000, $5,000 for a good dental implant here in the States, $2,000 for one in Thailand. Take that $2,500 difference, and that's your flight, that's your hotel, that's your trip. It can be very, very useful, so worth looking into. Well, that's it. Obviously, there are a number of ways to make money and save money while you're traveling. Of course, there are many more ways than the ways that I mentioned, and there's a lot of different ways to go about doing it. But the purpose was to open your eyes that that traveling doesn't have to be just a sunk cost. Essentially, you can make money. People make a living traveling. It's pretty amazing. And like I said, there's a lot of different websites and links here and whatnot, and I'll include them. I'll have them somewhere accessible for you, so you can at least have it all grouped together, understand it a little more thoroughly, and be able to explore some of these options. Pick two or three that you really want to focus on and you want to utilize, like me, the travel photography thing, the blogging, the travel. That's a great one for me. In the context of anxiety and in the context of just traveling, the credit cards, slam dunk. We utilize that. I totally recommend it. And it's just a great way to immerse yourself. You don't have to travel. It's not just you and yourself in your head or you and your friend. You can get to a place and have a job and have something going on. So keep it in mind. I hope this helped. This is a bonus course, and ultimately, this is to get you traveling, to get your anxiety defeated, and these can be some ways to leverage making money and making friends and have a good time and getting out of your head and being more involved in everything and having an awesome time. I really hope you enjoyed this course. Like I said, I love traveling. I love seeing people get over their fears and their anxiety and their depression, and I think traveling can be a massive boost. I get upset when I don't have a trip planned now. I've gone totally flip-flop, so it can happen to you. It takes perseverance, it takes self-confidence, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of persistence. You can do it. I'm 100% confident of it, though. I can do it. I've come from some pretty deep, dark holes, and I still have my struggles, but I'm so much better than where I was 10 years ago. And I hope I can take my knowledge and my experience, and you can apply it to your life and do it in a fraction of the time that I did. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this. I appreciate everything. Thanks.